continuing with Economics A level, Chapter 4. Today's topic is revenue. So we're talking about revenue. We're talking about the receipts of the total sales a firm has made over a period of time. But we'll go further. Let's read it. Revenue. Total, average, and marginal revenue. So we have total revenue, we have marginal revenue, and we have average revenue. We take it one at a time. Revenue. A firm's revenues are its receipts of money from the sale of goods and services over a period of time, such as a week or a year. We call it revenue or revenues because it's the total of your receipts in terms of what you sold as a firm over a period of time. It could be weekly, it could be daily, it could be monthly, and it could be yearly. So there are three types of revenue. We have the total, the average, and the marginal revenue. So what is the total revenue? For total revenue is the total amount of money received from the sales of any given level of output. It is the total quantity sold multiplied by the average price received. So for total revenue, we're talking about the price multiplied by the quantity sold of a product. So the total revenue is TR, which is price multiplied by Q, or Q multiplied by P. It's still the same. So our total revenue, as is being said here, is the total amount of money received. The total amount of money you earn as a firm in the course of selling. That is what total revenue is. So they made an example. They said, for example, if a company sold 100 machines at an average price of $1 million each over a year, then its total revenue would be $100 million. How is it $100 million? It is $100 million because the average price is $1 million multiplied by the quantity sold, which is P multiplied by Q, which is 100 million. 1 multiplied by 100 in million dollars is $100 million. That is what total revenue is. So the formula for total revenue is price multiplied by the quantity sold. Then we have average revenue. For average revenue, we're talking about the average amount received per unit sold. It can be calculated by dividing the total revenue by the quantity sold. So for average revenue, AR, it is the total revenue divided by the quantity sold, which is TR divided by Q. TR divided by Q. And how do we get our TR? Our TR is price multiplied by quantity. Then if we need to calculate the average revenue, it is price multiplied by quantity divided by quantity. That is average revenue. For example, if total revenue for a company is $50 million, and it sold 50 machines over a year, then its average revenue is $1 million. If all output is sold at the same price, then average revenue must be equal to the price of the product sold. AR must be equal to P. Because our average revenue is total revenue divided by quantity. And when we find the total revenue divided by quantity, it must equal to the price. That's why they said AR must be equal to price. So here we have 50 machines for 50 machines were sold, and for 1 million each. So that means it will be 1 million divided by 50. So that is about average revenue. I think it's clear. We have marginal revenue before I go further. So for marginal revenue, we're talking about the extra amount made in the course of selling. The amount made because of selling an extra unit of output. That is marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is the total amount made from selling an extra unit of output. That is marginal revenue. And the formula for marginal revenue is total revenue 2 minus total revenue 1, or a percentage of change in total revenue divided by change in quantity sold. Listen, for marginal revenue, we have different formulas for marginal revenue. But I think we know what marginal revenue is. The amount sold in the course of selling an extra unit of output. The amount made in the course of selling an extra unit of output. That is marginal revenue. And we said marginal revenue is what? The difference in total revenue and different levels of output, which is marginal revenue equals to total revenue X minus total revenue X minus 1, which is the same as total revenue 2 minus total revenue 1. So here, we can also say marginal revenue is change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. So we have a table. A table here. So we're going to use the formula to check if the formula I mentioned is right or not. I said marginal revenue here. Marginal revenue is TR2 minus TR1. Here we have our sales, we have our average revenue, we have our total revenue. So this is for sales 1, sales 2, sales 3, sales 4, sales 5. And I said marginal revenue is TR2 minus TR1. Our TR2 is 10 minus TR1, which is 5. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 50 minus 10 is 5. 20 minus 15 is 5, 25 minus 20 is 5. So we can derive our marginal revenue as total revenue 2 minus total revenue 1. So that is about marginal revenue. I'm quickly going to recap the 3 types of revenue we have before we move further. I said we have total revenue, which is price multiplied by the quantity sold. We have our average revenue, which must be equal to price, and the formula is total revenue minus quantity sold. And for marginal revenue, it is the additional amount of money received from selling an extra unit of output. And the formula is change in total revenue over change in quantity sold, or total revenue 2 minus total revenue 1. So we go to the revenue curves. For the curve now, we want to talk about changes that will occur in the course of selling an output or selling products. Different revenue curves can be drawn if there are different assumptions about average revenue. So when talking about average revenue, we're talking about total revenue divided by the quantity sold. One assumption is that a firm receives the same price for each good sold. This is shown in table 1. We have a table there. The price is $5. As the price is the same regardless of how many are sold. This must also be equal to the average revenue. So the total revenue increases as total sales increases. The marginal revenue and the additional revenue from each unit sold is also $5 at all level sales. So I'm going to use the table to explain what is being said here. So we have the table here. Okay, great. They said if the price remains constant. So if the price remains constant, that means the price remains unchanged. If the price remains unchanged, what will happen to the revenue curve? 2 things are going to have to happen. You know we have our total revenue. What happens with our total revenue when the price remains constant? What happens with our average revenue when the price remains constant? And what happens to our marginal revenue when the price remains constant? So we get to go through this. When our total revenue when price is constant, when the price of a product is constant, the total revenue will increase as sales increases. When the price is constant, the total revenue will increase as the sales of the product increases. So look at here, when the price is 0, the total revenue is 0. When the quantity sold is 1, the total revenue will be 5. When the quantity sold is 2, the total revenue becomes 10. 3, the total revenue becomes 15. 4, the total revenue becomes 20. 5, the total revenue becomes 25. So it is an upward slope. The revenue curve is upward slope if the price is constant. But what happens to our average revenue and the marginal revenue? The marginal revenue and the average revenue remains the same as price remains constant. So the more we sell, the constant the average revenue and the marginal revenue become. So they remain the same. So when the price is constant, the total revenue will increase as soon as sales increases. But that is not the same case for average revenue and marginal revenue. Demand for average revenue and marginal revenue will remain constant. That is the situation for the curve when it comes to revenue, when it comes to a constant price. Then we have another situation here. So they said, table 2, but before going to table 2, I'm going to read. Table 2 shows a situation where a firm has to lower its price in order to achieve higher sales. So most of the time, when firms tend to increase their sales, they might have to reduce the price of their products. And when they do this, what happens? They'll be able to sell, they will be witnessing higher sales. So let's continue reading. Table 2 shows that when sales reach 6 units, total revenue begins to fall. The loss in revenue from having to accept a lower price more than outweighs the increase in revenue from extra sales. As a result, marginal revenue becomes negative. Each extra unit sold brings in negative extra revenue. In essence, less revenue than the previous unit sold. So I am going to explain this. When the firm feels that it needs to increase its sales, it might have to reduce the price. So what happens to the total revenue when prices are falling? And what happens to the average revenue and the marginal revenue when prices are falling? This is the situation. As soon as the price falls from 30, as soon as the price falls, the table shows us that as soon as the price of the product falls, the total revenue will increase. Then it's going to reach a stage that it remains constant, then it starts falling. This is the situation here. This is the situation. As soon as the price increases, the total revenue increases, and it's going to reach a stage where it becomes constant at 1990. It becomes constant, then it starts falling. And when it starts falling, what happens? The marginal revenue will start witnessing a negative figure. That is the point they're making here. First, sales increases. Sales increases because price has reduced. And as soon as price reduces, the total revenue will increase to a stage. And when it gets to that stage, it will start witnessing a fall in revenue, Why is it witnessing a fall in revenue? It is witnessing a fall in revenue because the extra unit of the amount sold the quantity sold is more than the price that is being sold previously. As a result of that, it will start the marginal revenue will start witnessing a negative figure. So look at the situation here. There's an increase when the price falls. There's an increase until 90, which is 90 here. Then it remains constant at a point, and as soon as it remains constant at a point, it is expected to start falling. And when it starts falling, it starts witnessing a negative marginal revenue. So the total revenue will start falling when it gets to a stage. That's about a fall in price. Then we have our average revenue. Okay, now we have average revenue and marginal revenue when price is falling. I explained that already. When the price of the product is falling, the average revenue and the marginal revenue will start becoming a negative figure. So you see, the average revenue starts falling, the marginal revenue will also start falling. So these are giving us a negative figure. So look at what they wrote. The average and marginal revenue fall as sales increases. The average revenue curve is also the demand curve for the good because it shows the average price received at each level of sales. We have to remember that the demand curve is always a downward slope. So that is the same situation here. When the price starts falling, the average revenue and the marginal revenue will also start falling. And that is when consumers will be willing to buy more. So that is the situation here. I think that is all about average cost and average revenue. So I'm going to quickly do this activity 1. And in the next class, we're going to talk about revenue and price elasticity. So we have the case study to do, and I'm just going to do it. So, we don't have, okay, I'm just going to do it plainly. We have our sales, we have our average revenue, we need our total revenue. Our total revenue is sales multiplied by this. So if our total, remember we said that our total revenue is average revenue divided by quantity sold. Then what will be our total revenue? We said TR equals to P multiplied by Q. Now we have our AR. Our AR is always TR divided by quantity sold. So if our AR is TR divided by quantity sold, then our TR will be 20 multiplied by 1, which is 20. Then this will be 22 times 18, which will be 36. 3 times 16, that will be 48. 4 times 14, that will be 64. 5 times 12, that will be 60. 6 times 10, that will be 60. Also, 7 times 10, that will be 56. 8 times 6, that will be 64. 9 times 4, that will be 36. 10 times 2, that will be 20. And when we look at it backward, TR is the price, which is 20 divided by 10, which will give us 2, which is the price. So that's about that. Then our marginal revenue will be TR2 minus TR1. Our TR2 here is 36. And our TR1 is 20. So 36 minus 20 will be 16. So our first marginal revenue will be 16, and so on. I think the lesson is clear. So that's about average revenue, marginal revenue, and total revenue. In the next class, we're going to talk about revenue and price elasticity.